It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. The two guys on the overnight radio show that feel like they have to be the fathers, the adults in the room. We just want to step in and say, we don't care who started it, knock it off.
Boys, boys, boys.
Mr. O'Brien just said about right to work states versus forced work states. I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your
All right.
solution every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond, Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If we can, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and
You-
bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
right-
you because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it.
That's it.
Now, am I the only one? Because I heard it before I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, wow, Larry David's the referee.
Come on, guys. Knock it up. You know they're cousins, right? They found out because Larry David does burning on SNL.
Yes.
And then they found out that they're actually related. He's related to Bernie Sanders. I don't think you had to go. I don't even think we needed genetic testing to know that. It's like, yeah, of course they are. Yeah.
And that was Senator Mark Wayne Mullen and Teamsters President Sean O'Brien, who was a witness before the Senate yesterday.
Yeah.
So, who had written, I guess, on social media about, taking on Mullen. So
Right.
Mullen, Republicans need to stop that. I mean, it's not going to harm them, but don't do that.
Well, the thing is that you need to grow up.
Yeah.
That setting wasn't ever going to be a cage match, and you know it. If you're going to defeat the Teamsters president or whoever it is before you, if you've got a concern with them, well, you can do that. There are a number of ways you can do that, but challenging him to a fight during a hearing is not going to be one of those ways.
And I think the point that sticks with me is you look at the liberal union leadership today.
Mm-hmm.
They are so easy to rhetorically in a debate defeat their talking points.
Yeah.
Big time. They've never the union leadership, and we've talked about this with the whole UAW situation. The UAW not going to the government and say stop with the electric vehicles. When the auto companies got their deals, it was like, oh, this is a great deal, and even the Obama economist, I can't think of his name again, Larry Summers said, this sounds like an end game. They're trying to get what they want because they're going to be gone. And we said, where the hell has been the leadership of the unions demanding that the Democrats stop trying to kill manufacturing jobs? And they haven't been there at all.
Yeah,
in fact,
right.
as you see with the union leadership, and this is where they're so easy to attack, if they actually believe that the unions are going to be revived in this country by organizing Starbucks and McDonald's, they're out of their freaking minds.
Yeah, it's insane.
And so they're so easy, to go after because the party that they support, the Democrats, does not want a manufacturing base. They
No.
want what comes from a manufacturing base,
Right.
but they don't want to manufacture it here.
Right.
Make it in China.
Right.
I mean, it's so easy right now. And so to take an opportunity like that, instead of looking at the social media post and saying, you're being a child here, and you're being a child because you can't defend your actions, then go after him rhetorically in a debate back and forth. But to do that, just to me, it takes away. I mean, it was entertaining to hear.
Well,
but
it
takes an opportunity away.
Sure, and the second half of my position on this is, number one, again, you're not going to solve this in a hearing. You're certainly not going to turn that into a cage match. Number two, I want to see a cage match between the two,
right.
and let's let's sell tickets somewhere. If you guys really want to duke it out, go do it
and give it to your favorite charity.
Yeah, go do it.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you want to do? Arm wrestle? You want to actually punch? You want to train with MMA for 6 months, each of you, and then get in there and do some grappling? I don't know. What do you want to do? If you want to do it, man, I'll watch it all. I'll buy tickets and won't go. I'll actually help the cause.
Or maybe a thumb fight,
thumb wars.
The thumb war, do a thumb war.
Do a thumb war.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then
I understand the problem with union leadership. You and I, again, have talked about it, as you just laid out. Over the years, we've talked about it. We can't understand why the rank-and-file union members want to give all of their dues to the demise of their industry. But they keep doing it. You look at the Teamsters and what happened with Yellow Freight. Now, what happened with Yellow Freight long-term in that entire scenario, I put mostly on Yellow Freight. Things were they were a giant in trucking. But the threat of the walk-off by the unions is what really tipped it in the end, because the customers at Yellow Freight said, well, if there's going to be a massive, with a company that size, if there's going to be a walkout or a strike, we want to make sure our freight's being delivered, and they went somewhere else, and that was the tipping point. Again, I put the majority of what happened to Yellow Freight on Yellow Freight. But you can look at decisions over and over and over again from union leadership. And, the only thing I can come to, the only conclusion I can come to, well, a couple of what might be going on with leadership in the unions is they're going to be fine because they'll have a job. They'll always have a cush gig or a cush retirement. They're not worried about it. Or they're looking to turn their union into public union because the government will take over whatever industry that union is in, and that's what they're hoping, is that eventually there'll be a public union.
Yeah, as we said, there's a reason that private unions are dying, and the only increase in union leadership, in union membership, is in the public sector, which is government, which the union leadership, the union movement was initially against. Mm-hmm. George Meany was absolutely against government unions, but it's the only place where they believe that they can survive. They don't believe that they can survive in the competitive marketplace.
Right.
And so they try to have, these symbolic victories, the whole Starbucks thing or whatever. And it's just, it's not, that's not where you're going to unionize. That's not what's going to, bring, unions to success. And you and I started pounding on the union leadership years ago when their membership was absolutely against. I don't care what union you're talking. I don't care whether you're talking about the Teamsters, Steelworkers, UAW, construction, whatever. Yeah. They were all against illegal immigration, and their leadership had the opposite point of view, to the point, the absurdity that you and I go back, probably, was it a decade ago, maybe a decade or 15 years ago, when you had in Nevada, there, and this was a union, the rank and file, going crazy, saying we've got illegal immigrants working all over at construction sites, and the union leadership came out and said there's not one illegal immigrant working on one construction site in all of Nevada, and everybody knew that was a line of horse manure.
And I think Harry Reid at the time also said that.
Yeah.
There's not one, and everybody was looking at him just laughing, saying, are you kidding me?
Not only that, but they went out and actually found them. The news media went out and actually found the illegal immigrants working on construction
Because
sites.
the only thing you had to do in that effort is go to a construction site. Just pick one.
Right. And that's where the union leadership loyalty to the Democratic Party that wishes to destroy the manufacturing base in the United States. Because you destroy the manufacturing base by going after the private sector and say, as you see now, and saying basically the pseudo nationalizing of it by subsidizing products that can't make a profit, that can't be sold to the public because the public isn't asking for it. The marketplace is not asking for it. And the cost is through the roof to begin with, even with the subsidies.
Mm-hmm.
And the union leadership just refused to go after because the Democratic, they were in bed with the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Look, we know about it. The coal miners union
Yeah.
in West Virginia going back to Obama when he said he's going to bankrupt and kill the coal industry, and they endorsed him.
They endorsed him after he said it.
Right, the leadership endorsed him, and that goes all the way back to 2008. So we've been talking about this for a long, long time, and so it's real easy if Mark Wayne Mullen wanted to go after, the union leadership. It's very easy to do so and win that argument.
Yep. And remember when Jan Brewer was governor in Arizona and the Obama administration was going after Arizona for enforcing their border, and the union sided with the Obama administration.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Union leadership was saying basically that Arizona should not be enforcing its border. What does that tell you?
Well, they were crystal clear for years on illegal immigration.
Yep.
And so, I look at it as an opportunity lost because the focus will be on that. Now, Eric has said anybody who disagrees with us, he'll beat up, and I'll manage him.
Well, I didn't say beat up. I said I'll fight you. Now, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to go down fighting.
Like I used to do with my nephew or my great nephew, the little slap fight where you just and you don't do it hard, but it's like especially when they're little, you just go and you hit them on the cheek very lightly
or boxing from the early 1900s,
Marcus of Queensberry rules.
Yeah, where they
Yes, exactly.
turn your fist backwards. Come on, moving them in kind of a circular motion. I'm not sure what that was going to be and why that was a technique, but apparently it was back in the day. But this is, I'm with you. Does it cause damage to the party? No. But does it help? No.
It's a lost opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what we have talked about a lot with the Republican Party is lost opportunities to win the argument and win it, pound it every day and win it every day.
Well, because you could have done what you did with, Mullins could have done what he did with words. I just want to read to everybody what he posted and tweeted at me so we understand the type of scumbag that we're dealing with. And if you want to call him scumbag, go ahead, or bully or whatever it is. I just want the American people to know who you are at the core. I think you're a thug. I think you're a whatever, you want to throw your names out. And so there it is. So, you talk a good talk, but the fact of the matter is that you and other union leadership don't represent your union members properly because you're supporting all of this policy that will basically end in the demise of your industry. And we're seeing that play out. Congratulations, because I would have brought up the yellow thing. Yellow freight. Congratulations on that. Tens of thousands of union members out of work, because of decisions from people like you. Blah 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 blah. You could have. There's a ton of rhetoric if you wanted to get down to it that could be fact based, but you don't challenge them to a fight. You know that's not going to happen. That was never going to happen, and it's not a good look. Read the room.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in the truck's air system. That's why it's crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test. In addition to changing your air dryer desiccant cartridge and draining your air tanks, make sure that no alterations have been made to the air compressor discharge line. This can dramatically increase the amount of moisture in the air system. Lastly, have a professional technician check the condition of your air dryer heater, purge valve, and check valve.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, the imagery of Senator Mullen going up against the Teamsters President O'Brien with Bernie Sanders in the middle of it playing referee, the imagery because it didn't happen, but the imagery of it happening was quite entertaining in my mind.
I would love to see it in the actual ring. If they were to fight, I want to watch Bernie officiate.
Well, you know, Mullen is a former martial arts fighter.
Yeah.
And-
It's you know.
Did you see when he got up? It was like he was going to take his wedding ring off.
Yeah.
Like he had done this, like I've done this before.
Yeah.
When I fight, I take my wedding ring off.
Exactly.
I don't want my finger torn off. And he so like put his hand like to that hand and like moved it like he was going to take it off. I don't believe he did, but I burst out laughing when I saw that one. And oh man! And then you saw Comer going at it with the other Democratic representative yesterday. I mean, it was a very interesting day. I mean, and these things look.
And the allegation by Matt Gaetz that Kevin McCarthy elbowed him.
Wasn't Gates, was it?
Yeah. I thought it was Gaetz that filed the complaint. Or is it that just Gaetz that filed the complaint and it was on behalf of someone else?
Republican Representative Tim Burchett accused former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy of forcefully elbowing him on Capitol Hill Tuesday.
Okay.
While in a nearby chamber, Republican senators came to blows with a progressive hearing witness. And
by the way, Kevin McCarthy is saying it didn't happen.
He didn't happen, right? After a GOP conference meeting Tuesday, McCarthy allegedly shoved Burchett while he was talking to a reporter with his back turned. The disgruntled congressman then ran after the aggressor in a huff, yelling fighting words after becoming convinced he was hit on purpose. Yeah. Oh, there it is. On Tuesday afternoon, Gates filed an ethics complaint against McCarthy, claiming that he assaulted Burchett. So Gates filed an ethics complaint against McCarthy, yet from what I know was quiet on Johnson and the bipartisan vote that got every single Democrat to vote for it, except two Democrats.
Right.
That's interesting. Nobody's calling for the removal of Johnson as Speaker of the House.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I'm guessing that stopgap is going to pass. The Senate doesn't have a problem with it. It's going to take it through early next year.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear. Now, we do know that the conservatives in the House, I didn't get the head count on
93.
I know the numbers, but exactly who was in it. I didn't hear anything loud. You didn't see them as a group loud like they were before.
No, even the conservative media was promoting it as Johnson's first great success.
Right.
I'm just like,
yeah,
how things change in a month.
Well, no, it was just bizarre.
Wall Street Journal had I'll read parts of it coming up here. They had an editorial. Meet the new speaker, same as the old speaker.
Exactly.
It's like nothing changed. As by the way, we said nothing would change. We told
Said it
you
from
that.
day one.
We were criticized.
Yep.
But nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
The fourth branch of government. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We got so much to talk about. The inflation numbers. Apparently another $10 billion unfrozen that will go to Iran. It's mind-boggling, and we'll actually get to the State Department back and forth on that again with Associated Press reporter Matt Lee, who, by the way, I just told you during the bottom of the hour because we were listening to some of the audio. He should be a White House.
I wish
reporter.
he were. I wish he were at the White House.
Yeah, because the way that he goes through things. It's very tough to argue with him when he makes his points and or asks his questions, which the questions, as we've said many times before, questions can make points.
Yeah. And we know he's right because I just discovered during the break he's a Bills fan.
Well, that he's suffering then. He was suffering.
Well, I was going to say, that might be the only thing that he's wrong about. No.
Was he did he challenge Biden's State Department spokesperson Matt Miller to a fight? Because he probably would have been upset.
You want to take this outside?
I did yesterday.
My question is, Mr. President, my question is, do you want to take this outside?
you know what I did yesterday? Now, I haven't, I've seen one game this year because the schedule of when they play, I'm sleeping all the time, and I won't see a game the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And I probably don't want to see a Bills game the rest of the year after what I heard happen the other day. But I don't know if you know it, but they're building, right next to the old Bill Stadium. They're building the new stadium, and it's just a hole in the ground. And so I saw it yesterday, and I zoomed in just on the hole in the ground, and I went, I just heard Bills fans were so upset at the result of last night's game that they blew up the stadium.
It looks like a huge crater.
It looks like a crater, yes, because they're building the foundation of the new stadium. Yeah. So.
Well, that's an overreaction.
We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. Plus, the inflation numbers and the White House saying, great news. If you actually look at the reason it's not going to make a difference politically. Is because gas prices were the main driver of that. Gas prices going down. As we had said, it probably would be yesterday. You'd see it coming down because of gas prices. But if you look at a ton of other things, and we'll go through those actual products and services that people buy, and you look at it and you go, wow, people have to have those things. And those things are still going up. And nothing's really coming down. I mean, gasoline will come down a little bit.
Right.
But food keeps going up. So we'll get to that coming up. But we had talked about with everything that had happened with Kevin McCarthy, and we said nothing's going to change here. What are they actually fighting for? And there it is. As we found out yesterday, they needed every single. Well, they didn't need, but they got every single Democrat except two to vote for the bill that the Republicans put together that has no cuts at all. And it's Wall Street Journal. Meet the new speaker, same as the old speaker. Like Kevin McCarthy, Mike Johnson had no choice other than to rely on Democrats to keep the government open. Pop quiz. What's the difference between the bipartisan stopgap funding bill that passed the House Tuesday under new Speaker Mike Johnson and the September equivalent passed under former leader Kevin McCarthy? Answer, nothing but the self-defeating Republican drama. Mr. Johnson took a big step towards avoiding a government shutdown when the House passed a continuing resolution that extends current spending levels into next year. The House Freedom Caucus opposed the bill for lack of a spending reduction and money for the border, but the bill passed 336 to 95 with the help of Democrats. Note that the GOP backbenchers aren't threatening to depose Mr. Johnson for relying on the minority for passage, which was their excuse for ousting Mr. McCarthy, and 3 weeks of leadership pandemonium. So much for the claim that their goal was electing a more committed conservative as Speaker. None of this is meant to criticize Mr. Johnson, who, like Mr. McCarthy, has to deal with the tyranny of legislative numbers. The government is due to shut down Saturday, and neither chamber had passed all of its appropriation bills. Mr. Johnson could have tried a Republican-only bill that required deeper cuts as the price of keeping the government open, but he had no guarantee his right flank would support even that. GOP holdouts tanked two of Mr. McCarthy's GOP-only resolutions that contained conservative priorities. That's something that we have brought up.
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson's bill varies little in substance from the one that cost Mr. McCarthy his job. It contains a two-step approach, extending some funding to January 19th and some to February 2nd, eliminates the Senate's ability to jam through another year-end omnibus bill, and gives the House GOP negotiators more time to leverage gains in a bicameral appropriations conference. The decision to maintain current funding levels made the bill acceptable to Democrats and likely guarantees Senate passage, which we know it will because Schumer's already said it. Such political compromise are the price of governance with the narrow House majority and Democrat control of the Senate and White House. The lack of a rebellion this week from the Republicans is welcome, and apparently deposing two speakers in a few weeks was even too much for them. But it further exposes the hollow claims the McCarthy 8 made for their October exhibitionism. And it's what we said all along. It was about show.
Yep.
It was not about substance because you weren't going to change it no matter who you got. And even when they brought in Jordan, remember Gates backing off at that time?
Yeah.
Well,
right.
you know, I'm willing to listen to Jordan as he talks about, you know, a continuing resolution so we have time. And we go, well, wait a minute, you wouldn't give that to McCarthy. It was personality.
Yep.
It was not about substance.
Yep.
It was personal.
Yep.
It was about they were playing their own little games there. And, you know, Mace walking in. Remember her walking in with the scarlet letter?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a victim. I'm a woman. I'm a victim of the Republicans. Shut up.
Yeah, it was. It really was just the entire thing. For Gates, clearly goes back to January. You know, and to the beginning, this is a personality conflict, and you know, showing off your feathers in a way that didn't mean anything.
Right. And nothing today from him.
Well, and remember, Jordan was talking about increasing the cap on the salt tax. Hey, he was trying to work a deal with some of the in blue states, some of the Republicans that were in blue states, by saying, "Hey, I'll work to lift the salt deduction cap," and that's something that would clearly, with liberals, would have would have been a big deal. They would have jumped on board. In fact, what Matt Gaetz did to bring McCarthy out required all the Democrats. So when you look at it, nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
You look at Johnson, and you can say, at least with Johnson, well, at least a few Democrats didn't vote for it. I mean, it's not. It's the thing is there is no difference right now in what's going on with the GOP in the House, except for the fact that if you're watching it from afar, not our audience, maybe some in our audience might think this way and might look at it this way, that where you more and more see just the infighting. If the Republicans don't gain more seats in the House, if they don't win the Senate, if they don't win the White House, I put that on the party. And we can talk about party leadership, too. I mean, my gosh, it's a mess. It's a mess right now.
I know.
And Trump not doing the debates, by the way. I mean, in light of all this, him kind of staying out of the spotlight in terms of staying away from the debate stage for now is actually a bigger win than I thought from the beginning. Because it's not just about not having to deal with, you know, the opponents on the stage, but he doesn't have to, you know, address any of this. He's looking at this from afar. And keep in mind, on Truth Social, on that day that the vote came down with the bringing down Kevin McCarthy, he said that's not a good thing to do, and even Matt Gaetz didn't know that and was cornered into a question by a liberal
But
reporter
but it's
afterwards.
still an opportunity missed. It's an opportunity missed. And again, I don't know, whether Trump would take advantage of that opportunity. But the one thing Republicans have needed to be doing the last year is pounding on those 5 or 6 issues that we talk about all the time, because that's where they win. If you focus on, but they're a completely unfocused party right now with infighting, and it seems like they're a party that's just trying to survive till tomorrow instead of looking at 2024 and saying, my God, what an opportunity we have here. And it's the complaint that we have had about Republicans, and this is before Trump, because people say, well, you guys have talked about Trump not communicating. We've talked about the Republican Party not communicating, and I say it now again, and we'll see. We'll give Johnson a chance to do it, but for the last month, just a complete mess that was completely and totally unnecessary. And as you saw yesterday, you didn't have any of the 8. And you didn't have Gates out there screaming, we need to shut down the government, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to get rid of the speaker. And nothing changed at all.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
You put another person in there, but you have the same numbers, which you can't change the numbers that you have. And so the reality is that's what you had to do. And hopefully, but the problem is, if that's what you have to do, but you're not communicating with the public of why you have to change in 2024, well, then is it all useless?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that now look at what you have to make up for. Because the image in the mind by the average person is that, man, there's a lot of infighting going on with the GOP. I mean, if you're asking them about the GOP specifically. Now, that's likely outweighed by right now everything that's going on with the economy, the border, the anti-Semitism and everything else. But still, if you ask them specifically about the GOP, they're likely going to say, yeah, the infighting. Seems like they can't get it together. And that's a problem. We talked about this with Trump. The one thing Donald Trump has to do in 24, he should be starting now, he should have started a long time ago, is build allies within his party.
It's not going to happen.
I don't see it happening.
Not going to happen.
But I don't see other party members building many allies. If you look at it, at the picture for what it is, but he's the one that has to build allies within his party. And if the goal is to just, set off the dynamite and make it implode, well, there are plenty in the GOP that will help you do that. And the evidence couldn't be more clear right now.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, we have said since October 7th that in the Biden administration that anti-Semitism in that administration runs around like crazy, and the evidence, and we had said based on for example, what you have seen in the administration with their policies towards Israel and what the making funds available for Iran, knowing that the money is fungible and knowing that that money has gone to attack Israel and to attack U.S. interest. And the White House, from what we get yesterday, also released another $10 billion, froze $10 billion more to give to Iran, which is just pure insanity. I mean, it's as insane as you can get. But when you have, I've read over 400 and over 500, depending on what you read, and these are members of the Biden administration These are people that work inside the administration in 40 different departments, over 400 or over 500, don't have the exact amount, in that open letter, many people signing anonymously for a ceasefire. And this thing has been circulating for weeks.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the pro-terrorism, because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's anti-Semitism, but it's also pro-terrorism. This is understand how radical the Biden administration is and the people inside the Biden administration. Now, Biden knows that he can't win this with the public by taking the terrorist side, but anonymously, those people inside of his administration, an open letter saying, hey, we're pro-terrorists.
Yep.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Welcome, good morning. Did you see Nikki Haley yesterday vowing that the government would require all social media users to be verified? That the government government would come in and say every person, must be, nobody could be on there anonymous, even if the social media company allowed that. Mm-hmm. That the government, she was just blasted because it was, as was pointed out, the Federalist Papers that were written before the Constitution was actually signed, before we were actually a country.
Mm-hmm.
On the Federalist Papers, many of the founding fathers did it anonymously or used pseudonyms. They didn't use their real names.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you can't do that. The government can't come in and say you must do that. It's blatantly unconstitutional. She got blasted for that yesterday. It's interesting because as she seemed to be doing well, all of a sudden she hit with that, and it was like, boom.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we're talking about something like when we talk verification, someone's identity, voter ID, support voter ID laws. Other than that, social media, everyone must be verified? Okay. What about all the parody websites? What about, it's...
Well, if they wish to do it, if Twitter wished to do that and say, look, we need to, you need to show your license.
But she's not Twitter.
Right,
yeah.
That's the point, right?
Yeah.
It's the government. If Twitter wishes to do it, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
X.
Mm-hmm.
If X wishes to do it,
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Yeah.
Or if Facebook wishes to do it, fine. But it's the government, and that's what she was saying, the government would require for national security.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's, again, if you want to say, look, I support voter ID laws in states, we're seeing great success with that. There are no complaints. In fact, Senator Warnock in Georgia doesn't even know any Democrats that were against voter ID. If you want to talk about identification verification, it's so stupid when you get into the realm of wanting to control everything based on a hot button issue. It's like the whole concert tickets thing. Back in the day, what was it? Steroids in baseball. Which I promoted. I want more steroids. I want 52-inch arms coming out.
In the steroid league.
And you just when every time you swing, the bat shatters, and it would just, that would be great. I would be into baseball if they would allow that. But it's ridiculous. They get into these hot button issues. Not the place of government, and if you don't know that, then I question why you're running.
I haven't heard Biden. He hasn't in a week talked about, do they realize, look, there are important other things you need to shut up about concert fees and sports tickets, secondary market fees. You need to stop it.
Being the hero. Again, you're trying to, and that's what she's doing, trying to be the hero. Right. Quit acting like somebody on the left.
That was, I just shook my head going, well, okay, there's somebody who, okay, maybe she could challenge. Maybe she could if enough people drop out by the December debate, then they drop out after by January if Trump is below 50% and it's Nikki Haley against him and she does well in Iowa, which Trump had trouble in 2016 even. And if she could win Iowa and New Hampshire, she would get creamed in South Carolina, her own state, that might ruin her momentum. But you never know if you build up that momentum. If Trump is under 50, as we have seen in a number of states, he is, that might be your chance. And she gets the opening and boom. I don't know if that's enough to blow it or whether they'll just, it'll roll over. But certainly Ramaswamy and DeSantis took advantage of just pounding her on it, saying it's blatantly unconstitutional, and then going back to the Federalist Papers and the Founding Fathers who used pseudonyms because they didn't want people to know it. I mean, bringing that out, I just shook my head going, bad move, Nikki, bad move. All right, 400, we had said early on with this administration, we said, look, we know they're anti-Semitic. We know it. We know, coming out of the Obama administration, remember when what they were, the relationship they wanted with Israel, and Jewish leaders early in the Obama administration said, why the heck did we vote for this guy? Why are we supporting them? They're anti-Semitic. They don't support Israel. And we said the same thing about the Biden administration. And we had talked about the Iran deal, which was insane, that they're still trying to get, and the unfreezing of money when we know they're using it to attack the United States and our interests and our allies. And they are.
Yeah.
And so this story came out yesterday. 400 government officials from 40 departments and agencies within President Biden's administration signed a letter opposing the president's handling of the Israeli-Hamas war and demanded a ceasefire. Now, the interesting thing in the New York Times story is they were doing this over 3 weeks ago, so this was almost immediately. They had jumped on this. We call on President Biden to urgently demand a ceasefire and call for a de-escalation of the current conflict by securing the immediate release of Israeli hostages and arbitrarily detained Palestinians, a restoration of water, fuel, electricity, and other basic services, and the passage of adequate humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, the letter read in part. The White House has yet to respond to the letter. No blank, Sherlock. So far, only the French president is the only major Western leader to call on Israel to implement a ceasefire. But as we have said from the very beginning, if you are advocating a ceasefire in this to pressure Israel, that's where your anti-Semitism comes in. Because what you're saying is Israel does not have the right to defend itself from butchers.
Right, and you're saying that Hamas is right to do what they did.
Right, who target civilians, that there should be no cost for doing what they did. The anti-Semitism, the pro-terrorism inside the administration. Let's call it what it is. You said it early on. There is no gray area here.
There's no middle ground here. It's, because this is what, and the protesters, by the way, this is exactly what they want you to believe, that there's some kind of gray area. There isn't. There's a clear line On one side, radicals. On the other side, Israelis. Everybody else. It's just insane to think about, and over again they promote it. Because they are this radical. The mindset has been there for a long time. We've been pointing it out for years. So this is no surprise to us. But watching them proudly promote their anti-Semitism is new to a lot of people. Anecdotally, I've heard from people unsolicitedly that I know that likely would never have brought up a situation like this and or made a comment about the situation going on, and because they haven't been doing talk radio, they're not wonks, they haven't been following it the way a lot of us follow it and have been following it for years. They weren't aware how many radical people there are, not just there in the Middle East, here at home.
And not only here at home, inside the White House, inside the Biden administration.
Inside Congress.
Right. The pro-terrorists against our allies and American citizens who were killed and held hostage. Mm-hmm. Understand how, we've talked about this before with their energy policy. Why would you attempt to destroy the United States economic, energy, and security and national security by doing what we're doing what they want to do with the grid? Why would you do that? Why would you be begging our enemies to be pumping more oil over the last couple of years, as Biden has been doing, as he's trying to kill unsuccessfully, just like Obama did? The oil industry is ramping up now to record levels, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They can do it on private and state land. Mm-hmm. But we could do even more.
Yeah.
We could do even more. And we know that Biden is trying to stop it. Remember, the first thing he did was stop the Keystone XL pipeline, which you weren't going to stop the oil. He did it for symbolism. Thousands of great union jobs eliminated because of it. And as his environmental czar, his climate change czar, his transportation czar, his energy czar, from the Democrat liberal climate change position, all said by doing it, you'll put more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And so you're actually doing, by what your own standard is, the wrong thing, but the imagery is right. Only in liberalism could you do the wrong thing, but the imagery is a correct imagery.
Right.
Well, we know we're doing the wrong thing, but the imagery is correct.
And they've been doing it for years.
But the imagery isn't based on the reality, even from your own position here, which I will debate you on your own position on it, but that's not the point. From your own position, you're doing something that's against your own position and saying that the imagery is for the position that you don't hold but should hold. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it drives you crazy. But I mean, that's.
But we want Iran to have access to the global marketplace and make billions and billions and billions of dollars to support terrorism around the world, and including Hamas and their attacks on Israel.
Yeah, and it was out yesterday again, another $10 billion that the United States wants to unfreeze for Iran.
Yep.
It's pure insanity. There couldn't be this is one of those times, as I said yesterday, Eric, it's one of those times where I look at this and say, it really is almost, look, we haven't put out, we're still not putting out to the American people how much we hate America and how much we wish to destroy America, and still get people to vote for us. We look at it, we think it might be a dare that they have out there. Look, which one of us can promote a philosophy that will really hurt the American people or be against Americans' best interest or be so outrageously wrong? And that is unfreezing Iran assets when we know that the Iran assets go to support Hezbollah and Hamas, which attacked Israel and killed Americans and kidnapped Americans. And the White House is like, let's keep promoting that we're giving and freezing more money to Iran so they can even expand their terrorism network as they're attacking over 50 times American military sites in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like, you can't make this up. It's almost like, okay, we're just not hurting America enough and still getting the votes. Can you go a little bit further? Let's go a little bit further. Hey, what are they doing in a state level? Hey, Newsom, what are you doing there in California? Oh, we're cleaning up San Francisco. We won't do it for our citizens, but we're doing it for the communist leader who comes in town.
Yeah. Communists we care about. You guys, you.
And we have some audio coming up of the State Department spokesperson trying to answer the question about why are you unfreezing more assets to Iran. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just to show you how insane it is, this is at the State Department yesterday. State Department spokesperson Matt Miller being asked questions by Associated Press reporter Matt Lee. Now, Matt Lee is great.
Yeah,
I know it's Associated Press,
really
but he's just great. I think really he should be a White House. He should be a White House reporter.
I wish he were.
But here's a back and forth, and this goes on. This is about the report of the administration wanting to release or unfreeze another $10 billion to give to Iran, which we all know some of that will go to terrorism, which means it will go to Hamas,
right?
Which, as we know, committed a terrorist act, went to war against Israel, targeted civilians, beheaded babies, and killed and has taken Americans hostages. An act of war against the United States funded by Iran, an act of terrorism / war against the United States.
Right.
And we're like, what can we do to build Iran up and make sure they have more money?
Right, exactly.
This is Matt Lee and State Department spokesperson Matt Miller.
I just do not understand why it is that you're so, single-mindedly refusing to understand at least the argument that
I understand
this money is going to be able to be used by Iran, and that when they do use it, and they use $1 million to buy medicine of this money, that frees up another $1 million that they would have had to spend on this, without the sanctions waiver.
I understand,
and they can use that.
I understand the argument. I don't agree with it, and here's why. If they were sitting on that $1 million, they would use it for their destabilizing activities to fund terrorism and deny medicine to their people. That's the point I'm making. And so to approve $1 million of, say, medical transactions that benefit the Iranian people, we believe those are benefits to the Iranian people that they would not have otherwise gotten.
So it's just a lost cause, then? You're just saying that they're going to be destabilizing activities regardless of whether you give them the waiver or not.
I think that they have shown that they are going to conduct destabilizing activities. They were doing it before 2018 when the Trump administration gave them the first waiver, which is why we have an entire set of policies to hold them accountable for those destabilizing activities. And part of our policy has always been not to penalize the Iranian people. There is no country in the world where we deny access to food and medicine and where our sanctions target food and medicine and other humanitarian goods to the people. That's true with respect to Russia. It's true with respect to Iran. It's true with respect to every country in the world, and it always has been.
Well, maybe it shouldn't be, especially with the world's leading exporter of terrorism. We'll get to more of that back and forth. We have another audio cut to play following the bottom of the hour.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you want if you can't listen overnight. Getting back to the new $10 billion that, and that's Iraqi oil, by the way, that they had kept frozen, $10 billion that now they wish to give, wish to unfreeze, so Iran has access to it. Matt Miller, when confronting Matt Lee, talking about why don't you understand the fungible money that if you spend, if they can spend $1 million on medicine or whatever, for the the people, that frees up another $1 million to do something else. And Miller's response was, well, no, they'll never give anything to the people. Actually, they will, because public support, even in a place like Iran, is important. That's the falsehood there.
Well,
but then again,
and the argument it falls short because what you're saying is, well, if they just had more money, they would start to care. That if they have less money, they don't care about the people. The fact of the matter is that, and I said this to you in the pre-show meeting, this is the new narrative from the liberals, is that, well, no, the regime doesn't care when they're broke, but they do care when you give them billions of dollars. It's one way or the other. You can't make the argument that the money is what changes the sentiment in the regime, because their goal is to fund terrorism so that they can eradicate their enemy, which is pretty much Israel and the West. Again, death to America, which they've chanted repeatedly for a long, long time.
But also, they do have domestic concerns. There are domestic concerns, even if you're an Iranian government, a theocracy. It doesn't matter. You still want public opinion behind you, and you allocate funds for public opinion that will go to humanitarian things. So for him to say that, is a lie, number one. And he knows
it's a horrible argument.
It's a horrible argument. It's a lie. It's a horrible argument. Across the board it is. And the other thing is where he says we have control of the money with very strict criteria. We know that's not true. Andrew McCarthy made that known with the with the other billions that they got. What was the other billions that they got back? Was that another $10 billion? Yeah,
$6 billion.
$6 billion, yeah. With the $6 billion, he goes, it's not true. They came out with a statement implying that they had made a new deal with Qatar, and they hadn't. And he had pointed out, saying, they didn't make a new deal. There was no, it's the exact same deal. The United States is out of it. The United States is out of it completely. The United States can't tell Qatar anything. And they won't tell Qatar anything because they depend on the U.S. bases in Qatar. So Qatar can do whatever they want because Qatar is doing like a lot of these nations will do. They will support the U.S. on one end and not support the U.S. on another end.
Right.
Support our enemies on another end. And so Matt Lee knows that, by the way. And then they got into the fungible again. They continued it here. You can tell because he's asked this question. Oh, how many times has he asked this question that we played it over the last month?
Yeah,
Probably,
a lot.
A lot he has. But here's more of the back and forth.
And then what about the fungibility argument that you heard a lot with the money from South Korea for the hostages? Why is that argument wrong?
So I will say we have heard this a lot. I've addressed it a lot. So with respect to the Iranian regime, it has always funded destabilizing activities. It has done that first and foremost. It's one of its top priorities. It does that whether its people receive humanitarian benefits or not. To the extent that the Iranian people have greater access to food or medicine as a result of money covered by this waiver, that's food or medicine that otherwise would not have been available to them. And I would say, again, this is a policy that goes back to the previous administration. The previous administration apparently decided that it was worthwhile to have this money spent for the benefit of the Iranian people, with whom we have no quarrel. Our quarrel is with the Iranian regime and its destabilizing activities. And so what we see is an Iranian regime that, whether these waivers are issued or not, whether their people benefit from these monies or not, continues to fund hostile activities. That has not changed. It's not changed going back years.
Yeah, but what changes is the availability of money and how much they can spend on it.
Right.
Nobody is saying that they're not going to spend any money on terrorism if they don't get this money for humanitarian aid. It's that they'll spend more money if they get it. And his whole point to say that there is no domestic pressure on the Iranian leadership, that's flat out wrong. I don't care where you are. You know, in China, there's the pressure on the government. In Iran, there is the pressure on the government. Massive public opinion against the government. They don't want in Iran. They want to hold on to the people via a combination of threats and handouts.
Yeah, you have to control and also provide certain things.
Right.
During communism, with your daily or weekly allowance of food, you get vodka.
But that's a perfect example. You get your quota of bread, you get your quota of vodka, you get your very, very small apartment. Mm-hmm. You don't get a vehicle. You get transportation. You may have to wait in line to get it, but it's made available for you. You can have a job. You have a job, so you have security, but it's a job that they tell you you're going to work. Mm-hmm. And so it's a combination of an oppressive regime at the same time as giving you things. It's as if, did the Soviet Union have any type of medical care, or did everybody die and there were no hospitals?
Right.
Well, no, funding had to go into that, and the same thing with in Iran. So for him to be trying to sell that load of horse manure shows you again the lengths they will go in their anti-Semitism.
Well, and you can't deny the correlation in the timeline here with the $6 billion being released and then the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel. That was a very short window in terms of time. And so that correlation can't be denied. It's very real. So now $10 billion more. What's going to happen next? What does Hamas get from Iran next? What could happen next?
Yeah, so it's, again, that with the 400 to 500, whatever it is, a number of political appointees and bureaucrats in the Biden administration that came out early in that letter that's over 3 weeks old, according to the New York Times, and says a ceasefire shows you, because we told you, anti-Semitism is in the White House. Pro-terrorism against the United States and our allies are in the White House.
Taxpayer money's going to the Taliban. Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Yep.
Because, and then what do you hear from everyone inside the administration? You hear basically the positions of defense lawyers and I mean defending Hamas, defending Iran.
Well,
Because you can't, look, I pointed out a correlation. I didn't use the word causation for a reason. But there is a correlation in the time of the $6 billion being released and then the attacks October 7th. And you want to, but the administration will tell you all day, well, that's just a coincidence. You can't prove it. You can't prove it. You can't prove. That's just well, they're not going to do that. If they have more money, they'll start to care more about their people. We're choking out Iran and we're going after them in every way that we can. There are things we can control, things we can't control. Everything we can control, we're going to choke them out. Iranian leadership will have very little oxygen left in the room when we're done.
Well, we know that U.S. money that's supposed to go to humanitarian aid in Afghanistan, we know is going to the Taliban.
Yes.
We know that.
Right.
I mean, and so we're still giving money, so it doesn't matter to this administration whether they're still giving money for humanitarian aid that ends up in the hands of the Taliban. The Taliban, who what? Who's the Taliban? Who's responsible for 9/11? Where did that come from? Where did the push come from? Where did the financing come from for so much of this? Why did we go into Afghanistan in the first place?
Right.
To get rid of the Taliban, and now U.S. taxpayer dollars, not unfrozen funds, U.S. taxpayer dollars going to humanitarian aid that goes right to the Taliban. We did a couple of stories on that just about 2 weeks ago, and the same thing with Hamas.
Well, look at the actions of this administration. Think about that. Let's put everything together during the Biden years. Because now when you look back on it, the botched exit of Afghanistan, that looks a lot less like, oh, we were there for too long, and more like, we really don't care if there is a terrorism superstate created by the Taliban working with ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And we're willing to give up American lives in the process and lie to the American people during the process. That to me, if you pair everything going on right here, right now, to the botched exit of Afghanistan, it all looks like the same thing. The United States promoting terrorism, empowering terrorism around the world with, in part, your taxpayer dollars.
That is getting Americans killed and taken hostage.
Yes. And the response from this administration sounds like they're defending Iran.
Yeah.
They're defending Hamas. They're defending the Taliban. Well, it was Joe Biden that did once say back during the Obama years, well, the Taliban's not our enemy per se. This is who they are. That's who this president is. That's who this administration is. And it runs through. It is a culture. These aren't marching orders from the commander-in-chief. This is a culture that runs throughout all the way to the bone in the Biden administration. It's not just how they talk, it's how they act. It's what they're doing. The world is a more dangerous place. This nation is a more dangerous place because of Joe Biden.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, On the show, the inflation numbers out there, Democrats attempting to attack James Comer, saying he did the exact same thing as President Biden.
Right.
Comer let through a few BSs yesterday and actually said those words.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be a lot more cursing lately in Congress,
And some fighting. I mean, I think we're gonna see people duking it out soon.
It'd be like Parliament, huh?
Yeah.
And I said inflation numbers, right?
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't know, but if you didn't,
and I have a conspiracy theory update. It's my conspiracy theory on a sort of a innocent story that basically a study that was done about people and their pets.
Yeah.
And I have a conspiracy theory about why, and it has to do with climate change. Because they said that animals, your pet really doesn't make you happy.
Right.
And I think the reason they did that's my conspiracy theory, is because the climate change people want all the pets gone.
Yeah, I've known this though for a long time, that pets don't make you happy. I mean, when I rescued a baby cobra, the first day I was like, man, that thing is fast. I better find it, because it got loose in the house. And I thought to myself, this is going to be some work. And it's been some work.
Mm-hmm. So we'll have
a bit of a challenge.
We'll have that conspiracy theory update and a whole bunch more.
Yeah. By the way, my cobra's name is Bitey.
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 This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being with us and staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Here on this Wednesday. Here we are. Middle of November already.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right, so let's look here at inflation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find the chart that I had here from CNBC, and I lost it here. It was here. All right, I've got it. I've got it on hard copy.
Okay.
It may not have everything, but it has the majority of the stuff that we need. Some celebration that the October Consumer Price Index increased 3.2% on an annual basis. That's down from 3.7 in September, and a COVID pandemic era peak of 9.1% of June of 2022. Gasoline prices, as we said yesterday it would be, were the big driver of the reduction in October. Housing inflation also continued to cool. That would be, when they say housing inflation, does that mean the cost of what you buy a home for with the interest, or just the cost of a home?
I think that's all costs, including rents going up. All costs of housing,
Okay.
Not just home ownership.
When you look at when you break it down to products, though, because that's the important thing. Because when you look at inflation and they talk about 1,000 different products, we don't buy 1,000 different things. 1,000 different things aren't the things that are necessary for us.
Apparently, you don't know my grandchildren.
That you have to buy. Food away from home, up 5.4%. Food from vending machine and mobile vendors, 14.9%.
We haven't had a vending machine here in a few years, so I'll take their word for it.
Now, you look at it, and it's like food at home, up 2.1%. You're like, oh, that's pretty good, until you go to specific food items. Frozen vegetables, 10.7% year to year. Uncooked beef steaks, 10.6%. Sugar, 8.8%. Baby food and formula, 8.3%. Sauces and gravy, 7.5%. Turkey, 7.2%.
Whoa, you're saying gravy is up over 7%?
Sauces and gravies.
Yeah, sauces, I don't care. Gravy?
Gravies, yes.
This has got to stop.
7.5%. Turkey, 7.2%. White bread, 7.1%. Biscuits, rolls, and muffins, 5.7%. Spices, seasonings, condiments, sauces, 5.6%. Electricity, now this is skewed because of subsidies for wind and solar. Because you may not see the increase yourself, but it's the increase is there being paid for by the taxpayer. 2.4%. You know something? I changed electricity companies because when I make sure I need to qualify this because there are many people in many states that don't have what we have here, which is deregulation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how many choices do we have these days?
14,276 by my last count. That just goes by the solicitations I get in the mail. Switch now, and we'll buy you a car.
The thing I found interesting, I went because my last plan that I had for a couple of years was like 9 point something per kilowatt hour. That wasn't the total cost.
Right.
The total cost was like after all the taxes, all the fees, everything else thrown on there, I was paying, I think, 12.7 or 12.8 cents per kilowatt hour based on my usage, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's based on your usage.
Mm-hmm.
I think my new plan for 3 years is like 13.2%. So it's up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the full cost, total, complete cost, without question. The thing that I find interesting is when we talk about electricity, what do you hear all the time? Conserve, 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 right?
Yeah.
But how do they charge you for electricity? The more you use, the less you pay per kilowatt hour.
Yeah. Right.
So they encourage you to use more, but tell you to use less.
My dryer is running right now. There's nothing in it.
So I find that interesting. All right, so
yeah, I've always found that to be fascinating. Well, it's because I didn't use enough. You know, you're turning everything off. You got everything switched to LEDs. You got a smart home, but it's not smart on the rate. Paying 19 cents a kilowatt hour. I thought I was crushing it. I'm being crushed. Yeah.
And what I found interesting was because I looked and went to a couple of those services that helps you and explains everything to you about it, and they say like the free nights and weekends and things like that.
Yeah,
they're like if you take into consideration what they charge you per kilowatt hour, and then all the free stuff, which if you use it, actually it's that because of what you would end up using is so low. That actually it's not a deal, that you actually do better just paying a lower kilowatt hour for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you really and I'm like, oh, okay. And they went through all the figures of it. I'm like, that I don't have it in front of me, but that was really interesting. But that's the one thing that caught me. All I hear is conserve, and then I realized, well, every single plan is based on, well, this would be your average kilowatt hour if you use 1,400 kilowatt hours, and this is what it would be. per kilowatt hour.
Well, and now you're going to start seeing also the additional charge. It is the funeral cost for the turbine blades that are being buried.
Oh man, and I'm going to post a bunch of it. Jordan Peterson's conference he held in Great Britain, and I put on I can't think of his name. Is it Steve Tinker, whatever, on climate change? Michael Schellenberger was up there. Now Michael Schellenberger, remember, he's a liberal. Yeah, and he's sort of like Bjorn Lomborg, who also speaks there. I haven't watched his, but I watched Schellenberger yesterday. The climate change thing's going to go in the opposite direction because of, number one, of the cost, and number one, when people actually find out the truth. Because Schellenberger is somebody like Bjorn Lomborg. He believes that climate change is happening and being affected by man. He also believes that everything that we're doing is completely wrong.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the fact of technology. He also talks about, he goes into to how the technology that we have in energy, that by using the energy that we have, and he's basically saying, look, we don't actually need to use coal anymore. We don't need to. We've got nuclear, and he's really big on nuclear and natural gas. He said we have everything we want with nuclear and natural gas, and nuclear is safer than ever before. Coal actually will be phased out because of nuclear and natural gas in the future. But he says the more energy that we use, the less land by half that we use for agriculture.
Yeah, right.
That we can produce. We are producing twice per acre in agriculture than we were in 1960. That's why it's so easy to feed the whole world if we wish to feed the whole world. And he says, and that's all because of energy.
Yeah.
And he said, it's impossible. He said, where you hear the left talking about the fact that we need to use a lot less energy. And he basically says that guarantees you poverty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Something we've been saying for a long, long time, but he broke it down as to why.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I'm gonna post every couple of days. I'll probably post what was at that conference, Jordan Peterson's conference. But the climate change stuff is excellent, and energy. They are just, they're right on. And Schellenberger, former liberal, part of the, as we talked about, part of the Twitter files.
Or as we call them now, the X-Files.
Yeah, exactly, the X-Files. I wonder if he did that on purpose. Is just excellent. But looking at electricity, 2.4%, that doesn't count the massive subsidies for solar and wind that the taxpayer pays.
Right, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what that would be if you extrapolated that out. So you see that food is still high. Food is still high and over the food's things that you eat. Now, what else? Admission to sporting events in the last year. What do you think with everything and the hardships and everything else? What do you think is the inflation for sporting events in the last year? 25%.
Wow, that's more than half.
25%. Motor vehicle insurance. And this is why, again, it's so important to understand. They may be telling you the rate of inflation is coming down, but the things that you have to have, these things are all above the inflation rate from what I can see.
Auto insurance
or the majority
is
of
up
them.
2 trillion%. I may be a little off on that number, but I think if my memory serves me from yesterday's breakdown, I think it's 2 trillion%.
19.2%.
That's close.
Auto insurance is up. Motor vehicle repair, 15%.
Yeah.
Men's pants and shorts, 8.1%. Non-prescription drugs, 8%. Veterinarian services, 8.1%.
I can't afford to wear pants.
Cigarettes, 7.6%. Rent of primary residence, 7.2%. Care for invalids and the elderly, 7%. And so when you break it down, so many of the things that are absolute necessities are going up in price. And we know automobiles. We know the situation with automobiles and the interest rate and everything. And cars may have gone up. And I think it was, let me find it here, Washington Examiner, that, the Bidenomics 2023 They say inflation down, prices up. Inflation rate down, prices up.
Exactly.
They keep making the mistake also. Even conservatives make that mistake. He said, today we saw progress bringing down inflation while maintaining one of the strongest job markets in history. Biden said in a statement, at 3.2% annual inflation is now down by 65% from the peak. Democrats will certainly hope that Biden, whose job approval has been in the 30s, will benefit at least a little for trying to solve the problem on his watch. Don't bet on it. We talked about the things that people buy are actually way above that rate of inflation of 3.2%.
Right.
So many of the things that you buy. But as was pointed out, the New York Times. Yes, the inflation rate has fallen sharply this year, but most prices have not fallen. Said New York Times' David Leonhardt wrote recently, only their rate of increase has gone down. When prices shot up to insane levels at the grocery store back in 21 and 22, well, they're still at the insane levels today, and they're still going up.
This is something that, again, we have to point out over and over again. This does not mean prices are coming down.
Right.
When you look at core inflation, when you look at the year over year, prices are still higher, and they're higher based on where inflation was last year,
right,
which was also much higher than the previous year. It's a compounding effect over and over and over again, which the American people already know. The numbers yesterday were, again, October numbers, and they already paid for that. They know what their checkbook looked like. I'm sorry. For those under 60, a check was a little piece of paper where you could just write an amount and then you sign your name. Basically goes back to your bank and they give the money to the store. They look at what they're spending and they know this. That's the one thing that, of course, the Biden administration, they want to come out. I'm waiting for them to come out and say, see, by allowing, because they actually kind of said it. It was Kirby that said, not enforcing the oil embargo on Iran. He said, well, supply and demand. I'm waiting for them to point to the inflation numbers. See the big driver in inflation dropping, that would be rate of inflation, is that energy was down, and that's because we allowed Iran to sell oil. I'm waiting for that.
Oh, wow. Well, the danger is now the White House, I can see Karine Jean-Pierre for the next couple of weeks, and Biden out there saying, the economy is doing great. Inflation is coming down. Inflation is coming down.
Yeah.
We just saw it in the last report, and people are going, what the hell are you talking about?
What are you talking about? This isn't happening. The reaction, I think, on Wall Street yesterday was probably a mix of anywhere between, wow, we thought it was going to be so much worse, to, oh, my gosh, I'm really drunk. Because it was, and I said it was an overreaction. I actually said it out loud, and then Charles Payne on Fox Business actually was saying the same thing. I didn't realize that. I did not get that from him, but he agrees, and he's a pretty smart guy. I don't consider myself to be anywhere near an expert, but just observing this, it was I thought the market was an overreaction to those numbers yesterday, and we'll see if that pans out to be true. But the fact of the matter is, the American people have already paid those prices in October, and they know prices are not coming down.
You see the civics poll? Minus 19 now.
Yeah. Interesting. I
Civics
guess they
poll.
went back to work in the office at Civics, right?
Yeah, because
for the longest time, it was, 53-39 or whatever?
Yeah, for like, I don't know.
Forever, it seemed like.
It seemed like a year.
A year.
We're like, wait a minute.
It's like they put it on autopilot.
And this was a poll that always fluctuated based on anything that happened.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, boom, it's now minus 19, where it was just a few weeks ago. It was still minus 13, minus 12, things like that.
As more Democrats call for him not to run, now it's changing in a more of a downward direction for Biden.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Friday Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. So, really, when you look at it, for the vast majority of things that people actually have to buy, inflation is up.
Yeah.
And it's up more than what you saw. The core inflation was, I think, 4%.
Yeah.
But even the prices that we just laid out for you, which are food items and car insurance and things that people actually use, all up even over the rate of core inflation of 4%.
Right, and that's what it gets down to, is what the American people are actually feeling. The average household, what their actual spending power is. And you're not going to convince, this isn't one of these political debates where you're going to convince people the economy is doing well when every time they step out of their house, everything that they're buying, everything they're using is costing them more.
And as liberalism was successful in selling an idea of the future.
Yeah, in the abstract, as you said.
In the abstract. This is what will happen if we do this.
Right.
There will be no pain.
Right.
There's not going to be any pain. You don't feel any pain now, but this is what is going to, this is where liberalism will take you. Well, now reality is hit up against those abstract ideas, and there's nothing you can do. You can sell a hypothetical to people.
Yeah, right.
But you can't convince them that what their reality is not their reality.
Right.
And they try in a variety of things. Inflation, gender,
right?
And a variety of things they try to
do.
The
border is secure.
The border is secure, but you can't successfully do it once people know what's going on because it's their reality.
So good, you want to listen again with our podcast, available on our app and at redeyeradioshow.com.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We had the pro-Israeli rally in D.C. yesterday.
Yeah.
Close to 300,000 people. They say they're the biggest pro-Israeli rally ever.
Yeah.
Biden never mentioned it.
Well, again, day after day, we see it.
I know.
The anti-Semitism is very much alive in this administration.
Yep.
You shouldn't have any questions because you're delusional or you're just flat out lying if you say otherwise. Actions. And in this case, lack of words. And remember the reaction by Karine Jean-Pierre early on when she was asked about the rise in anti-Semitism, and then she went to her book and said, well, Muslim Americans, blah, 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 blah.
Islamophobia is what she went to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it took, 2-3 weeks for them to come around because of the pressure. You're seeing the pressure. The president yesterday would, so many people concerned about the American hostages. And finally.
Yeah, finally.
Finally.
I was thinking, was he listening to us last night?
Yeah, no, I mean, it seemed like it. It was like, because we were talking about it last night, and we've been talking about it from the beginning. What is known about the American hostages and why aren't people greatly concerned about it? And then he mentions yesterday, well, I can't go into details, but I'm confident that a deal will be struck.
Which is why we said, is that why the $10 billion is being released to Iran?
Well, that's the whole thing. And so you look at that, and so Iran gets $10 billion. Imagine that's the case. Well, then what does Hamas do next? Look at what Hamas did after the $6 billion was released. And now you want to release $10 billion.
Well, remember, Kirby said they would do anything in the future. They would do the exact same thing
he
again.
He was asked. You're right.
Yeah, he was asked
before. It was before October 7th, but people brought up the concern, and he said, "Oh yeah, no, we'll do anything." Again, he did his William H. Macy. Oh yeah, no, we'll give them money for sure. Yeah, we'll give them a lot of money if that's we'll do anything we have to do.
Yeah, so we're not making that up. They said it.
And so now with $10 billion, Iran has even more money to fund Hamas.
Yep.
And it's interesting because Israel said they were carrying out a mission in the hospital there in Gaza. And I haven't seen details in terms of that mission, and I wondered if that has anything to do with it. Because Israel was not specific, of course, and not that they necessarily would be. But my question would be, all right, was there an understanding based on that $10 billion being released to Iran, and Israel goes in, they go into that hospital, or was that just something completely separate? I don't know. We'll learn soon enough. We'll know soon enough on the hostage front, because I don't think it's a coincidence that the president spoke yesterday. He's not going to speak if he's not confident something is going to go down soon.
And if you wonder what we're talking about, the Biden administration on Tuesday reapproved a sanctions waiver that will allow Iran to access upwards of $10 billion in frozen assets, the State Department confirmed to the Washington Free Beacon. That's why we had played earlier I can't think of his name, Matt Lee, asking the State Department spokesperson about that, saying, why are you doing this?
Yeah, right.
Why are you allowing them to have funds when you know they're fungible and you know what they'll do with it? And they just claim it's not. They're trying to make the case it's not fungible, and that they have strict control over it. The same lie that they continue to tell since early October. So that apparently the State Department told Washington Free Beacon that is a go. And when you and I saw this yesterday, we asked the question, is this the deal for the hostages being made now, the American hostages? And are we just going to continue to pay ransom? Because you can look at it and say, well, wait a minute. Because Iran took the hostages and we unfroze $6 billion, then Hamas takes more hostages and we pay them $10 billion. You have to ask we unfreeze $10 billion. You have to ask the question, is this now going to be the policy of Islamic terrorist groups around the world, because they know that the United States, it will pay because the Biden administration will deal with you for money.
Yeah, right.
And not only deal with you in money, but attempt to limit Israel's war against Hamas.
Right.
That's the other question that you would have.
Right.
And the other story out there yesterday, which is why, and we'd said it a long time ago, we said, look, anti-Semitism's in this White House. Understand how radical they are. And we had brought you the examples of why we believed it. But yesterday, when you saw the story, hundreds of federal employees signed an open letter calling on the president to urgently demand a ceasefire and a de-escalation of the conflict through the release of hostages and provision of humanitarian aid. This, again, was the Times yesterday. More than 400 employees of President Joe Biden's administration in 40 different departments signed an open letter demanding a ceasefire, that he pursue a ceasefire.
Mm-hmm.
The letter says the signatories represent various backgrounds and faiths and work in more than 30 departments and agencies. I saw 40, the latest that I had. Two administrative staff members who led outreach efforts for the letter told NBC that since the letter was first circulated about 2 weeks ago, I saw 3 weeks ago in another story, it has gained the signatures of senior and low-level administration employees working across the federal government and in multiple countries. They include staff in the Department of Commerce, Defense, Interior, Homeland Security, and the Executive Office of the President, among other agencies. Understand how radical this administration is and the people that have been put into the bureaucracy that will remain there even if a Republican gets the presidency in 2024. Understand the anti-Semitism and the pro-terrorism against the United States of American citizens that are currently in our government and support the Biden administration.
Yep.
We're not making this up. They're telling you what they are.
Yeah,
They're being very clear as to what they are.
No question.
You don't have to make anything up.
Nope.
You and I don't have to sit there and say, well, we speculate. No, they say it.
They do a lot of our work for us.
Yeah, they do. It just, and you shake your head. You shake your head and you just say, my God, what in the hell has happened to these people to take this position? To in essence, as Bill Maher went after Obama last week, that there's some type of moral equivalency between Hamas and Israel.
Yeah.
And that is the anti-Semitism and the pro-terrorism part of our allegation of these people, that they are anti-Semites and they are pro-terrorism against the United States, because those United States citizens that were killed, how many? Like 30? 30 Americans killed, slaughtered, tortured, and, it's because of Israel.
Yeah.
Well, that's a load.
And they should stop defending themselves.
Right.
They're the problem.
Understand the anti-American, pro-terrorism against American citizens that exist in the Biden administration and throughout the Democrats inside government right now.
Yep, it's very clear where everything is right now, and we've been saying since the beginning, it is the radicals versus everyone else, and the radicals right now hold the White House.
And understand, they're in Homeland Security. They're in the Department of Defense. The agencies, according to the New York Times, the agencies that exist to protect us have people in them that wish to do the opposite.
Yep.
That wish to encourage terrorism against United States citizens.
Yep.
Well, we know, you look at Mayorkas. Mayorkas'
The
job
border is secure.
is to secure the border. He says the border's secure. Everybody knows it's
fine.
not. Why would you do that? Why would you do that as somebody who is in charge of securing the border, and you obviously aren't securing the border because your boss doesn't want you to do it, and you keep telling that lie over and over and over and over and over again?
Yeah. Yep. And it's it's over and over again. We point out when the Border Patrol was talking about, listen, we have people that are on the terror watch list that are coming across the border. And that has been going on for how long now? I mean, it seems like it is routine that we hear that from the Border Patrol. But when we hear it after October 7th, it's almost like the abstract versus reality all over again. Well, this is urgent. Well, it's always been urgent. It's always been the case that Israel should be defending themselves. It's always been the case that Hamas is a terrorist organization. And quite frankly, it's disappointing that a lot of people have been on the sidelines on this for a long, long time. For far too long. But it's not abstract versus the reality scenario. It's not abstract at all when Mayorkas says, oh, the border is secure, there's no problem, while the Border Patrol has been pointing out what the problem is just when it comes to terrorism. We haven't even talked about the cartels yet in this segment in that regard. But how long before it starts changing elections in a big, big way? Fentanyl is killing countless Americans.
I think it's the number one killer of young people now.
And what's what's being done about it? What's being done about it in terms of elections, securing the border? Nothing. How we're not sending the loudest of messages here. Terrorists coming across the border. The cartels controlling the border. The cartels sending endless amounts of fentanyl into the states. Along with China, by the way. Oh, and let's make sure we clean the streets in San Francisco and welcome President Xi.
It's
insanity. I
insanity.
mean, it's insane.
I know.
And yet the Democrats still win elections.
Like I said, it's like it's a dare. How much can we tell the American public we're destroying their quality of life?
Yeah.
And
Well,
how long will they still continue to vote for us?
Exactly.
When we want to hurt their national
Right.
security, their economic security, their energy security?
It's a contest.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, my conspiracy theory update.
All right.
What I think is a what I believe is a climate change conspiracy theory.
Okay.
Because it cannot be true. From all my personal experience, it cannot be true. So if it's being promoted, it must be a conspiracy theory. Details coming up.
All right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow.
Yeah? What?
Well, a week from now, it'll be Thanksgiving Eve. Just everything's coming too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're Wednesday, right? Wednesday. Do I have the day right?
It is
2023,
it is
right?
Wednesday. Wow, is it November already?
All right, now I saw this yesterday and went, I don't know about this here. I don't know about this study. And I started thinking to myself, all right, what would be the motivation behind a study like this and telling us what the results are? That the results are not what people actually say. The study doesn't fit what people actually doesn't fit the polling. and I have my conspiracy theory on it in a moment.
Okay, all right.
But a vast majority of dog and cat owners will say their pets enrich their lives in countless ways and bring immeasurable levels of extra happiness. But researchers from Michigan State University suggest that most pet owners may just be telling themselves what they want to hear. Their new study found that despite owners claiming pets improve their lives, researchers did not see a reliable association between pet ownership and well-being during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they go, the pandemic was a stressful time for everyone. Even the most laid back among us found ourselves overwhelmed by the lockdowns and social distancing guidelines that dominated 2020. So the research team at MSU theorized that the pandemic represented the ideal time to study just how much comfort and happiness pets really provide to their families.
Actually, I would argue that it would be the worst time to study that. Because you're at a point where, remember, at the beginning, if you breathe on someone or they breathe on you, you could both die. Well, your pet dog's not going to bring much comfort to you in a situation like that. When there is great chaos, quite easily your pet kind of disappears into the background.
Yeah, no, that is a solid point for people. For some people, I could see that.
Well, because when's the last? This generation has never known a pandemic.
No,
ever. So this would be the absolute worst time to do this study.
In all, the study's authors assessed a total of 767 people on 3 separate occasions in May of 2020. Now, remember, May of 2020 was the height, really, of the lockdowns where you couldn't do anything.
That's the worst time ever in history, well, in modern years, to have done this study.
I never thought about this. I never saw. Remember in May of 2020, remember they were saying you shouldn't go outside? Remember cities were closing outdoor parks? Remember, wasn't it Tom Brady who was in the Tampa area?
Well, remember.
And got busted?
Yeah, exactly. They brought the SWAT team out. They tackled him. He doesn't get tackled very often.
They didn't tackle him.
Okay, there may be a few details I didn't have accurate, but come on. It was chaos. But no, and remember also, that would have been about the time that it started to turn around on the masks, because at first, if you wore a mask, then you were keeping a healthcare worker from getting a mask.
Right.
You were using masks that should be saved for the healthcare industry. You shouldn't be wearing that mask. How dare you wear a mask? Karen went from, how dare you wear a mask, to, why the hell aren't you wearing a mask, in about 5 minutes.
I don't think I ever saw a dog with a mask on, though. I wonder if there was anybody that put a mask on a dog.
Karen's dog had a mask on.
But the research team opted to adopt a mixed method approach that allowed them to simultaneously assess several indicators of well-being, all while also asking participants to reflect on the role of pets from their point of view in an open-ended manner. Generally, pet owners predictably reported their pets made them happy. More specifically, said their pets helped them feel more positive emotions and provided affection and companionship. I would be one of those people that would say that with my late cat, Mango. I worked, went home. My normal pattern of every couple of weeks going to see my, parents was gone and everything else. That cat, because remember, especially in May of 2020, nobody was even visiting anybody. Right. Everything was closed, remember?
Right.
Restaurants, bars, you couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
You basically had TV, and if you had your pet there, I remember the late, great Mango that I did actually, well, I say rescue, you say kidnapped.
Yeah.
From our parking lot here.
Right.
But I'd had him a couple of years by that point,
right.
Maybe 4 years. Was a great comfort because it was somebody. I mean, living alone as I do is a great comfort to be around. And I don't know how any study or could tell me that what I felt was not what I felt.
Well, because, even if you wanted to get into the metrics of, even if they had gone so far as to hooking people up to wires and monitoring brain activity or that kind of thing during that time, it would have been a horrible time to do that, because even in the worst of situations, people are going to respond and say, no, my pet is fine. And why is that? Well, because
You love your pet.
the pet is a reflection of you. You chose to have the pet. The pet didn't just wander in to the house. You at some point made an effort to proactively take that pet home and make that pet yours. That's a different kind of psychology. It's not like sometimes with even a human child where we go, oops, I guess we're having a baby. You don't go, oops, I guess we have a dog. Now, that does happen with puppies, but but you have to have a pet in the house for that to actually begin. And the point is that you make a choice to do that. So it's a different kind of ownership than just ownership of the dog or the cat. You own that, hey, I did this, I brought it in, and I know it brings me joy because I chose to do it.
Said more specifically, they said their pets helped them feel more positive emotion and provided affection and companionship. On the other hand, participants also articulated the dark side of pet ownership, which is basically the responsibilities, such as worries related to their pets' well-being or having their pets interfere with working remotely.
Okay. Okay. So there are a couple of things here. If during COVID your pet was a bat, you were probably having second thoughts. But no, everything during COVID was amplified, right? If you look at May of 2020, every worry was 1,000,000 times larger. That would include if your dog is getting sick. And maybe, I think probably with a lot of people, hey, can my dog go outside and then bring COVID into the house? If my dog goes out into the backyard for an hour and comes back in, can it bring COVID back in? I mean, this was May of 2020. So every concern and fear is amplified, which again goes back to making this the worst period ever to do this kind of study.
But it gets convoluted in part here. It says, crucially, however, when study authors actually compared the happiness of pet owners to levels seen among non-pet owners, the data sets showed no difference in the well-being of owners and the non-pet owners over time. Number one, how do you judge happiness to begin with? But the research team explains it also didn't matter what type of pet people owned, how many they cared for, or how close a pet was to their person. Researchers also did not deem the personalities of their owners to be a factor either. People say their pets make them happy, but when we actually measure happiness, that doesn't appear to be the case, said William Chopik, associated professor of psychology and co-author of the study. People see friends as lonely or wanting companionship, and they recommend getting a pet, but it's unlikely that to be as transformative as people think. Well, now you're saying, you're trying to make the case, are pets the lone factor of your happiness?
Right. Are they the basis of your happiness, which is a ridiculous, it's kind of a straw man argument.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. Study authors also explored several theories explaining why there are no differences seen between the well-being of pet owners and not pet owners. Define well-being again. One of these hypotheses was that non-pet owners fill their lives with other activities and interests that make them just as happy as a pet would. Staking all of your hope on making a pet making you feel better is probably unfair and is maybe costly given other things that you could do with your life that could improve your happiness. When I saw that, when I read that entire thing, I went, oh, conspiracy theory. These are universities doing it. Many of these universities are the ones that are promoting climate change, that promote getting rid of pets, because one of the worst things for climate change is having pets.
Right.
Now, I never had a pet my entire life until they know the story, the cat that was outside the studio here, the big black cat that would sit at the front door and just sit and wait for people to come out. And then, remember the emails during the day, don't feed the damn cat. Well, finally there was cold weather, and this cat, because I fed him. I fed Mango. And so when my car would come down the street, I could see him running along the bushes. He knew my engine noise, and he'd come running out and wait. So one day when we had real cold weather coming up, I said, my thought was, I'm going to find the owner.
Right.
And I couldn't find the owner. And I did the whole thing, lost and found, put it Facebook, whatever, did whatever, got probably.
You ripped down all the missing cat posters. I mean, you did your due diligence. Yes.
Well, I got probably, 5 or 6 people that called me, and it wasn't the right cat. All the time I was thinking, well, do I want a cat? Do I want to keep it? I said, well, I can't. I'm out of town, kitty litters. I started examining. Oh, I can find a water fountain that has 4 liters. I got cameras all over the house. If I leave for a day or two, I can monitor the cat. And if anything's wrong, one of my friends who has a key can come over and take care of them. And then I found the computerized kitty litters.
Yeah.
And I got one of them. I have 2 now. I have one that is my major one, and one that is that's the backup for when I leave. And it's in a laundry closet. I just open up the door, and the cat can run into it if the other one is full. And they're great, no smell, nothing. The technology is there for them. They're a little bit expensive, but I wanted that. I wanted to feel comfortable in having the cat. I was a happy person before I had the cat.
Yeah.
But a cat added to my life. And when Mango died of a stroke right in front of me, I said, well, probably not going to get another cat. I just rescued this one. A week later, I had my new cat. And a cat, and I'm sure a dog does the same thing. It provides another way to be happy or content. But if you're saying the totality of it, I was a happy person before, and I'm a happy person now. I don't think my personality has changed whatsoever. But to sit there and say that animal or a pet doesn't provide a new way of being content or happy is just flat out wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we choose to do that. There are exceptions to that rule.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can inherit, a pet. But for the most part, we choose to do that. And we have that desire to have something around us that has that unconditional affection for us.
So, study finds the same thing. Go back to August. Dog owners experience less stress and loneliness during COVID-19 pandemic. Another study that was done.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's the one study is just bogus.
Well, it is bogus, and just anecdotally, a lot of things going on in my personal life, and my wife and I had been sick lately, and the dog kind of takes a back burner, and I didn't get to go outside and play with her and do things, for a few weeks with her. And this last Saturday, took her out back. I was playing with her, brushed her out. She's basically her winter fur is coming in. So brushing her out is a real task. She's a 70-pound dog with long hair. But she's so good. I mean, she just lays there, and I've got her on her bed, in the backyard, and brushing her out. Beautiful weather, and she's just soaking it in. And tomorrow, she gets her spa day. Cost me $100. $100. But you should see her. It's so wild when she goes there and they come out to get her and take her into the back, drop her off, or it takes 2 or 3 hours, whatever. And she's just, her tail is wagging. She knows what's going on. She's going to be treated like, queen for a day, the whole thing. These are things, again, it's that unconditional love. You know, and that's what you look for. You look for that relationship, you know, with that pet. But the family relationship with the pet as well, if, you know, that applies. I remember when my kids were small, one of the dogs we got as a puppy, it was the center of the family. You know, those are the things that we do as a society. We make those choices, you know, and of course it brings happiness. During a pandemic, maybe that's not the best time to measure because everything is over the top heightened, but there's no doubt it's a positive.
To say that it brings responsibilities is a given. Anything brings responsibilities.
Yeah.
What doesn't bring responsibility?
And
brings
you know
happiness?
that going in. By the way, it's one way to teach your children responsibility, how to care for something that has a life.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
In Tri-Night Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. But that's the thing that made me laugh the most was right after that, and this was in the website Study Finds, that one thing that said, well, pets really don't make you happy. And then the study right behind it, that during COVID-19, dogs made people happy.
Yeah.
And so it's like one survey says one thing, one says the other. And like I said, I hate that I'm always looking for an ulterior motive, but I know that the climate change people are always looking for ways to try to convince people to get rid of their pets.
Yeah.
Because that's considered one of the biggest causes for climate change out there that we can control. And that always sits in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
My little personal conspiracy theory.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Tri-Night Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I wish I could play this audio cut, but there's too much profanity in it. And this was, again, I mean, what a wild day it was in Congress yesterday.
What is going on, man?
In the Senate. But this was where, this is a James Comer. It was a House Oversight Committee, and it was Jared Moskowitz from a Democrat from Florida. That MSNBC, for example, saying, this shows the problems with the Republicans here. Republicans are losing it, and Moskowitz told MSNBC afterwards that Comer needed a mental health day because Comer came out and said BS twice. Mm-hmm. That I heard. He might have said it third time. I heard him say it twice. Mm-hmm. And what it was is this is the whole thing about they're trying. Moskowitz was trying to make the comparison, as the media was even trying to do, and then dropped it. That James Comer is the same as did the exact same thing as Biden. He loaned money to his brother. See, he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
He loaned money to his brother. He's doing the same. They're going after the president for loaning. No, they're not.
No.
No, they're not. That's not why they're doing it. And so, first off, Comer, because he was hit by, he goes, the media won't even cover this. This has been debunked because I didn't loan my brother any money. And he said, I've got, his father had a bunch of property that James Comer bought from his father.
Right.
And they set up an LLC because it's a huge property. And he goes, but it's all legit. I mean, there's all money, the money going through it. We're not getting money from China. We're not getting money from any other foreign actors. This is just an in-family thing where we set up an LLC in order to run this huge property.
Right.
He goes, and it's completely, and they're trying to make the same, they're making this horrible case, and because Comer got mad, and that's why you got to be very careful about getting angry, because the left will use it against you, but they never got to the substance, or the only substance that the Democrats had was that Comer lent money to his brother, which he said, I never did that. That's a lie.
Right.
That's been debunked.
Right.
I never, but even if I did loan money to my brother, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point isn't Biden lending money to his brother. The point is where the money came from to pay him back, and was there a promise of influence peddling or a bribe that was involved in it?
Right.
And I'm like, that's the best. And like MSNBC is like, we're winning here. Basically, we're winning. Republicans are losing it here. And we're winning. We're winning here. We're winning. We're going after James Comer. See the hypocrisy of James Comer because he's lent his brother. It's just like,
It's where the money came from.
Yeah, it's where the money came from. It's not that you loaned your brother money. It's where the money came to pay him back.
Right. I mean, but that's, I guess, how desperate the left has become.
Oh, it's really, I mean,
well,
it's
because
weak.
It's almost like, trying to set the tone in a courtroom, right? You float something trying to create the shadow of a doubt. And politically, that's what you have to try and do here. And they've got nothing on Comer. There's nothing there.
Motzkowitz said, he goes, on MSNBC, they have such a thin skin, these Republicans. I'd like to dish it out, but, man, they just can't take it. He's been going on TV day in and day out talking about the brother and the president, and they do business together when he wasn't in office, by the way. And as soon as there's an article written that the chairman is doing the exact same thing, well, that's a lie.
That's a lie. And isolating it that it was just James and Joe is flat out lie. AmeriCorps was involved here. We saw foreign funds come into that account, and then from the brother to Joe. And the White House, the Biden administration, the Biden team has yet to demonstrate and said they're basically not going to cooperate in proving that it was a loan. At MSNBC, they're trying to essentially defend Biden where Biden won't even defend Biden. Because Joe Biden could come out and say, here are the bank records that show on this date I loaned my brother this money. Here are the documents that my brother had in terms of the agreement of the loan, the terms of the loan. Here they all are. They could take the wind out of the sails from the GOP, but they haven't. Why is that? If it's just a loan between a couple of brothers and they can demonstrate that clearly, and not just demonstrate that, we're not talking about in a courtroom, we're not talking about behind closed doors, we're talking about politically. And you look at the legislative branch, that the House, where the only control that the GOP has right now, that entire case could be shattered by Biden coming out saying, here's the documents. Here you go. And here's where we mentioned it on the IRS tax form when we filed that year. Here you go. And he hasn't done that. Because he's not going to do that. Because he can't do that. And I'm right about that until he proves me wrong, which he can do. I mean, can you imagine, Gary, having the ammunition to prove an entire party wrong about an accusation that they're making of you in a formal setting? It's not like Comer is just throwing these things out there in the media. We're talking about an impeachment inquiry. We're talking about a formal process here. And you could kick the legs out from under it by simply demonstrating it was a loan to your brother. And you don't. That tells me you can't.
Because it's not about, and you should see the number of, I just went through here, James Comer, like Joe Biden, paid his brother $200K, the Daily Beast. New Republic, James Comer melts down over report. He did the exact same thing. Top Republican investigating Biden calls the Democrat a liar. And, you know, you look like a Smurf. Comer rips Democrat who targeted him for doing the same thing that Joe Biden did for his brother. Well, that's not true.
There's no proof of that.
But that's not the loan isn't the problem. It's where the money came from.
Well, and that's the biggest part of it is where was the money flow? Where did the money flow begin? To James. They're trying to tell you that these foreign entities or AmeriCorps didn't have anything to do with it? When it's clearly been demonstrated that AmeriCorps funded James Biden's account on the same day that he wrote a check for the exact same amount to his brother.
Right.
And yet they're trying to make an argument that Joe Biden isn't even effectively making. They're trying to say it was a loan, but Joe Biden can prove it's a loan if there is proof that it's a loan.
The interesting thing, because I watched the interview, there's just too much profanity in it, and that's, whether it's Senator Mullen or Comer, you don't need to do this.
No.
You don't need to get angry. You don't need to curse. You don't need to threaten to fight. You don't need to do these things. Stop doing this. Stop acting like children. It was easy to tear apart. I tore it apart.
Yep.
In fact, Musk had said to him, I'll give you my time to explain yourself. So he did, and he was making such great points. He goes, well, I take back my time. No, sorry, you gave it to me.
You gave it to me.
You gave it to me.
You just
and
yielded your time.
And you could tell. And then he started talking over Comer, obviously, because he didn't want Comer to continue to talk, because he was making the point, this isn't even about if I gave my brother a loan, it's still not about that. It's about where the money came from and what James promised in order to get that money to pay back that loan to Joe Biden. One came from the Chinese, the other came from the healthcare company. Then in the bankruptcy filings, the healthcare company said James Biden said his brother, because of his connections, would be able to get foreign capital into that particular company.
Right.
Which they did not do, and they filed bankruptcy
but the left,
because of it.
The left always has to leave out the biggest part of the equation that matters.
But the fact is, you can tell, and then they brought up, and you had an LLC too. Well, LLCs have legitimate purposes, but we know what the business was. The business for Comer was the land sales.
Right.
Why did the LLCs exist? What was the business the Bidens were in?
Right.
Because they said, see, Comer was in business with his family, Biden was in business with his family. Well, we know Comer, even by Comer's explanation, what business were they doing? Land sales.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What business were the Bidens in?
Right. What was that for?
Anybody, any Democrat answer the question? So, and that's why you don't need to lose it. You don't need to curse. You simply have to say, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and here's the way that it is, and you're the chairman of that committee. You can explain yourself fully.
There's no money from a foreign entity or AmeriCorps going into my account.
Right.
This was strictly back and forth. And by the way, if it is the same, then Joe Biden can prove it. If it were, but it's not, because you've already proven that AmeriCorps funded that $200,000. And China, the $40,000.
And the Daily Beast was able to find out this information, some of which Comer said was wrong with the loan, but they could find the financial transactions because they were public.
Yes. Yep.
Which Biden's were not.
Right. Again, what is the family business?
Right. The land sales were public, so you know what they were doing.
Right.
So what business were it goes back to what business were the Bidens in? And what Comer has to realize is, and I don't know why he went into the BS unless he believed such a lie, that he was outraged by, where they went on it because it was such a lie. But the fact is you can tear them apart. And if I would look at this and say, if that's what the Democrats have, they don't have a damn thing. That's how I'd look at it.
Yeah, no, it's
if
weak.
If that's what they're using,
it's weak.
It's extremely weak because they're not actually looking at the part that is a concern to Americans, which is the influence peddling / bribes.
Yep. Yeah.
If Comer was in that same situation, you might be able to make the same comparison.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Seeing what Comer should have said, and I hit the first part of it before, what Comer should have said to the Democratic congressman who accused him of doing the exact same thing that Biden did by giving a loan to his brother, which he said he didn't give a loan to his brother, but he said he had an LLC involved in his property transfers, which, by the way, is fine because what Comer should have said is, well, you know about this, and the Daily Beast found out about it because it's all public records. It's all out there.
Yeah. Right.
So you can judge it, or you can lie about certain things.
I couldn't hide it if I wanted to.
Or be misinformed, but I can't hide it. Everything is there. Transparency's there. So if you wish to find out whether I have done the same thing as Joe Biden, ask Joe Biden to be as transparent, because everything I did was in public records.
Right.
Everything he did was not in public records, because you know what business I was in, the property sales. Please tell me what business he was in.
Because you're either accusing me of doing something wrong, which means you're also accusing Joe Biden of doing something wrong, or you're saying I did nothing wrong with no proof that Joe Biden has done nothing wrong. That's the whole point.
Right.
It's weak.
But you only know or believe you know based on the Daily Beast looking at public records, some of which the fact of I loaned my brother money, I don't know how they would know that, is false. I did not loan my brother any money.
Right.
These were real estate transactions that an LLC was used in, and it was transparent because they were able to find out through property tax records.
Right.
Everything was above board.
Right.
You knew what business I was in, what I was doing. Tell me what business the Bidens were in.
Right.
What were they selling?
Right.
That's the question. It's not the loan. It's where the money came from to pay the loan, the so-called loan.
Yeah.
And what services were given for that money.
Right.
That simple.
Yeah, not hard.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.